T. It's in the name.
Welcome to the NFL playoffs with the good old-fashioned dislike podcast, where dynasties never die and hate is an extreme word, but just barely. This episode is brought to you by Collision Auto Repair Services in Killen, Alabama. Football is a collision sport, but driving your car shouldn't be. When your car suffers from unnecessary roughness, be sure to call Collision Auto Repair Services at 256-272-2007. That's 256-272-2007. On this podcast, we usually pick a football rivalry and we submit that rivalry to the panel of dislike. They will come up with reasons why we like one team, dislike one team, and vice versa. And by the end, we come to a conclusion of where our loyalties lie, mainly based on non-football things. But that's what's so much fun. Be sure to tell us, on whatever platform you hear this, who you're picking to win in each of the NFL Super Wildcard matchups. The panel of dislike record coming out of bowl season. Will Mahan sits at 6-4, Ben Hayes at 5-5, Blake and Josh tied at 4-6, and your host is an abysmal 3-7. This week's golden dislike goes to the TV execs and powers that be. The college football championship should be on Saturday. The Super Wildcard shouldn't be on a pay-per-view streaming site. All of the dislikes. For this weekend, we start in the NFC with the 7th seed Green Bay Packers at 9-8, traveling to Jerry's World to take on the second-seeded 12-5 Dallas Cowboys, a rematch of the legendary Ice Bowl, but in much warmer conditions down south in the Dome. The entire panel is rolling with the Dallas Cowboys to get the W. Next up, we have the 6th-seeded LA Rams and Matthew Stafford at 10-7 going to Motown to face the 3rd-seeded Detroit Lions at 12-5. Matthew Stafford returns and Goff gets a chance at revenge. The entire panel is getting their groove on for the Lions and are cheering for them as well. The final NFC matchup of the Super Wildcard is the 5th-seeded Philadelphia Eagles at 11-6, traveling to Tampa to tangle with the 4th-seeded Bucks at 9-8. Much love to Mike Evans for helping us win our fantasy league, but the entire panel stays unanimous and picks the Philadelphia Eagles to get back on track. Now we turn to the American Football Conference, with the 11-6 5th-seeded Cleveland Browns going to the 4th-seeded Houston Texans at 10-7. Most of the panel would like to see D'Amico Ryans, John Mechie, Will Anderson, Christian Harris, and Henry To'oTo'o win. We do have some dispute on who will win this one. The official Ben and Travis pick is the Cleveland Browns with Josh Thorne, Blake Holloman, and your host rolling with Flacco, Amari, and the Browns. Ben and Will take the Texans. Next, we have the 6th-seeded Miami Dolphins at 11-6 on the road at the 3rd-seeded Kansas City Chiefs at 11-6. The official panel of dislike is a unanimous decision in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs. Prove us wrong, Tua. The last pick'em of today's episode is between the 7th-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-7, who travel to take on the 2nd-seeded Buffalo Bills at 11-6. The panel of dislike is picking the Bills to slam the Steelers through a table on their way to the next round. If the official picks are correct in the AFC, we'll have the Cleveland Browns traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens and the Kansas City Swifts at the Buffalo Bills in the January cold. Oof. In the NFC, we'll have a rematch of the ineligible gate at the scene of the crime. Just who did report as eligible on the grassy knoll? Detroit returns to Dallas, and the Eagles of brotherly shove headed to the Bay of San Fran on the left coast. Should be a great weekend. Be sure to invite your less fortunate friends over to enjoy your Peacock streaming service.